welcome to the Six Report. Today I'm joined with Jonathan Ott, President and CEO of Dakota Gold, to discuss their recent press release. But Jonathan, welcome to the show, and I'll let you actually update the audience on the news and we can take it from there.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here. So you're referring to our Richmond Hill press release from last week?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we announced continued successful drill holes from our Richmond Hill project, which is moving towards putting out a maiden resource in Q1 of 2024. Results continue to exceed expectations. And when I say that, there's 800 historical drill holes at Richmond Hill. So when we put out drill holes, we often will compare those holes to the historical model. So when the thickness or the grade exceeds what's in the model, we call that exceeding expectations. And it's a big system, and it has shown an ability to make high grade. So we are testing 5 breccia pipes that have not been tested before, and we've only tested one of them. So the other 4 are going to be tested later on this year.
Thank you. And the news also stated that the drill rig was rather productive with a unit cost approximately 30% below budget. Why was that, and is that a trend that we could see moving forward?
Yeah, great question. So when we started drilling last year, it was the first time that this drilling company had been drilling in the Black Hills and in this geological setting. And it took a bit of time to get familiar with the rocks and use the right products, the right team, the right rigs. And we've gradually been lowering our costs, but also increasing our productivity, which has been a nice sort of double whammy. And really just constantly trying to collaborate with our drillers, but then also push when we have to and we think things aren't where they need to be. And that's resulted in our productivity going from about 110 to 120 feet a day per rig to about 160, 170 feet per day. And then our unit cost going from north of $80 a foot to roughly $60, $65 a foot. So a nice reduction there in cost.
Thank you. And I think it's beneficial for people new to the Dakota story, as we have a lot of Canadian listeners. Where does the Richmond Hill Gold Project play into your vision of an overall focus on the company?
Yeah, it's one of 2 projects that we're currently drilling. We have 4 rigs active in the area, 2 rigs at our Maitland project and 2 rigs at Richmond Hill. It's important to note that both of these projects are on private ground. So that's very consistent with our strategy of trying to do as much work as we can on private ground. And I'll just quickly talk about the distinction between federal ground, so U.S. Forest Service or BLM, and private. So we have about a third of our land is on private ground. So we've got 50,000 acres in the Black Hills, where 1/3 of that roughly is private ground. It's a much quicker permitting process and somewhat allows you to control your own narrative when it comes to permitting and development. So Richmond Hill is a past producer. As I indicated earlier, there were 800 historical drill holes that were drilled that were very shallow, and we're going underneath the known mineralization, looking to extend that and test a different geological unit. And we've had success. And as I said, there was a real focus on this oxide cap, and we are now going underneath that into the same or similar setting to what was mined at Homestake for 125 years.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on the history of this production, please?
Yeah, so the Homestake district, the Homestake mine is still to this day the largest single gold mine in the history of the U.S. So almost 40 million ounces of gold came out of this mine over a 125-year period that saw production start in 1876 and production cease in 2001. So Barrick Gold bought Homestake Mining in 2001, but Barrick didn't buy Homestake for South Dakota. They bought it for other assets that Homestake had in their portfolio. So right away, the Homestake mine went into Barrick's closure group. And we bought a number of assets from Barrick out of their closure group. And in fact, this would be the 3rd deal that Barrick has done during the Mark Bristow era out of their closure group, with the other 2 being K92, which has flirted with a $2 billion market cap, very successful. They're at an endowment now of over 10 million ounces in Papua New Guinea, and then Skeena in the Golden Triangle in British Columbia. So when we put this company together and merged with a company called Dakota Territory Resource Corp, Dakota Territory had a small postage stamp of a land package about 3.5 to 4 miles north of the old mine, and they had about 5,000 acres, and we now have 50,000 acres. So there's been a fairly extensive, considerable consolidation effort to put this whole district back together under one roof. And one of the most challenging aspects of this transaction was to digitize all of the data from the old mine, which was in analog paper format. And I think we underestimated just how much data there was and how big the data set was. But that data set was hugely informative in this consolidation effort, but also in guiding our exploration program.
Perfect. Thanks for that explanation. So what can people look forward to for the rest of 2023?
Just active with these 4 rigs, 2 rigs focused at Maitland, 2 rigs focused at Richmond Hill. So Maitland is contiguous with the old mine. It contained a discovery that Homestake had made called the North Drift discovery. So we are going to be drilling the up-dip portion of that North Drift discovery later this year. We've announced 2 discoveries at our Maitland project. One is called the JB Zone, which is in Homestake Formation, which is the same host to what Homestake mined for 125 years. That was announced last month. And then earlier this year, we announced a discovery to what we call the Unionville discovery, which is in a younger package of rocks that Homestake never actually assayed for. So really the focus at Maitland, 4 primary targets to follow up on the JB discovery, which is in Homestake Formation, very important. The Unionville discovery in the tertiary, so the younger package of rocks. We're going to go underneath the old Maitland mine. So the Maitland mine stopped producing as the U.S. entered the Second World War. And then we're drilling this up-dip portion of the North Drift discovery. So 4 potential significant catalysts. And then at Richmond Hill, it's really about delivering a maiden resource to the market in Q1 of 24, but also to drill test these collapsed breccias, of which there are 5 of them that have not been tested. It's a large land package that despite having 800 historical drill holes, very shallow, really going after that oxide cap. So that's really what people can expect from Dakota later this year. And then you may see the odd land consolidation acquisition, in the district, really going after securing private land.
Perfect. John, I appreciate the concise answers. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks very much. Much appreciated. Thank you.